The next watch I'm considering needs little introduction. It's the Tudor Black Bay 58. Let's get into this. Looking to buy, sell, or exchange a premium watch? Visit Watchfinder, the pre-owned watch specialist. I know it's annoying me saying, but when you subscribe to the channel, it really makes a difference. 60% of the people viewing aren't subscribed, so if you're one of them, please take the opportunity to click the subscribe button and help make sure the channel continues to be here. Thank you very much. To list what's likable about this watch is, to be honest, a bit of a task. In short, it's perfect. In long, it's an arrangement of everything that makes a watch desirable tied up into one neat little package. It's got heritage, it's got spec, it's got looks, and it's got value. Usually you can pick just 2 or, if you're lucky, 3 of those things, but somehow this watch manages to cram in all of it. Let's break it down to show you what I mean. Starting with heritage, well, it's a Rolex family product. Tudor was established a quarter century after Rolex by the same founder, Hans Wilsdorf, to offer the reliability and practicality of a Rolex in a more affordable package. Cheaper, but no less effective, movements were fitted, as by that point reliability and accuracy was more readily available than it was when Rolex got started. But nevertheless, Tudor watches were and are a Rolex product, and the advantages therein ripple throughout the purchase. Not to mention, this watch is inspired by Tudor timepieces that served in the armed forces, broke diving records, and actually did the things a watch like this is supposed to do. So it's credible. It's more than credible. It's part of watchmaking history. That's a good start, and it only gets better from here. One big difference between the Black Bay 58 and its predecessors of the century before, however, is the movement. They used to be off the shelf. I mean, technically so were Rolexes, but now they're not. This is a Tudor movement built to Tudor's specs inside a Tudor. Doesn't matter to some, but in an era where a bog-standard Etta just won't cut it anymore, a watch being in-house from top to tail is pretty attractive. It's got, to be precise, the caliber MT5402 inside, and it's a doozy. It's chronometer certified for a start, so it's properly accurate. There's a power reserve of 70 hours, good enough to get you through a weekend without having to reset it. Obviously, it's self-winding, so as long as you don't leave it more than 3 days, you won't ever have to fiddle with it, especially because there's no date. Which brings us nicely onto the next thing I like about it, the looks. I've mentioned before that I had a no-date Submariner about 10 years ago, back when Rolexes were attainable by average folk, and it's probably the watch I regret selling the most. Not just because it would be worth about 5 times what I paid for it, but because of its simple, unadorned functionality. It did what it had to do and did it well, and no more. For me, today's Rolex offerings are too showy, too flashy, especially for the style, and the Black Bay 58 goes a long way to capturing the essence of that last-gen Submariner. The other thing it replicates is the price. I paid £2,500 for that Submariner, and that's about what this Black Bay 58 costs as well. Not to mention the 5-year warranty that's not only transferable, but also free of any registration or maintenance, and you've got yourself a package that brings incredible value together with heritage, looks, and specification. Oh, and not to mention the rock-solid residuals. It's basically perfect. But is it too perfect? The problem with perfect is that it's very possible to conflate with bland. Imperfections are often what we interpret as character. The rattly Rolex bracelet of old, for example, or an engine bay fire in a Ferrari. When something does nothing wrong, it's usually because it's been engineered specifically to be perfect, and that mentality often comes at the cost of the humanity that makes a product endearing. The Submariner, for example, is the byproduct of small budgets and practical thinking. The outer bezel developed as a platform for the line of Rolex sports models that could be easily adapted for the GMT Master and the Turnograph. It was far less complicated and elegant than the internal bezels some of the more experienced manufacturers used, and in part, that cost-saving measure is what makes a Rolex a Rolex. And again, when the Sea Dweller was being developed in competition with the mighty Omega Ploprof, time and budget dictated the fitment of a thicker caseback, bezel and crystal to a Submariner case and drilling a hole in the side to let the pressure out. A bodge for sure, but one that pipped Rolex ever further into the lead. It's moments like this that earn an otherwise inanimate object its persona, and skipping past all that to the end goal of making an idealized product can ultimately rob it of personality. Take McLaren, for example. The F1 road car, designed by Gordon Murray, followed an intense period of dominance in Formula One racing, where all that accumulated expertise was concentrated into the greatest road-going vehicle to ever exist. It's a work of engineering perfection, yes, but the journey that led to its being is one of the best ever told in motorsport. Take McLaren of today by comparison. With little recent motorsport dominance to speak of, the revival of the road car division of McLaren was built around an ethos of making the best machine possible. But that has been, by all accounts, at the cost of personality. There's no story, no journey. The outcome is both the journey and the goal, all in one. That's a little bit how I feel about the Tudor Black Bay 58. It's almost like it was engineered for me to like, as though its success in catching my attention is more about how fallible I am as a human being than the genuine attraction of the organic evolution of the watch. Tudor didn't set about making a sports watch for use as a diver. It identified all the aspects that appeal to people like me and soullessly built a package up around it. Maybe. Or maybe not. That's how it feels, anyway. That's not limited to watches, of course. The music we listen to, the movies we watch, the food we eat, and the time we spend have been analysed into oblivion to determine exactly who we are as a series of data points. The results are effective, but lacking emotion, and that worries me a bit. If a car sounds good, should it matter if the exhaust noise is artificial? Or should you just sit back, listen, and enjoy? When I get asked for watch recommendations, there aren't many opportunities where I don't suggest the Tudor Black Bay 58. It may have been engineered to be perfect, but that doesn't stop it fulfilling so much for so relatively little. Am I really so simple to have been decoded in quite this way? Probably. I could buy this watch and experience the same enjoyment I did from that Rolex I had previously, and let's face it, there aren't many watches these days that can do that like this can. Or it could feel like being part of the simulation. So, will it be the red pill or the blue pill? While I'm pondering the next option, let me know your thoughts on the Black Bay 58, and why not throw in some other options as well. Discover more exceptional watches at Watchfinder. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If there are any watches you'd like to see featured, please let us know in the comments below.